One more story about that family that had broken into the house that had been condemned. While that young man was working in my office, Mr. Sutphin, school custodian, great man. We had a great staff. The secretary was Miss Brown. Her husband was a fellow principal in the school district. Two things there connected. One with Mr. Sutphin, one with Miss Brown. But the first one had to do with the boy, the older boy, the one that had the money taped to his feet. I came into the office after being out on the playground and walking around at lunch one day, and Mr. Sutphin came in and he said, "You got to watch that boy that's helping you." I said, "What happened?" Well, he said, "I was walking by the office." He said, "I wasn't really being nosy and looking in the office, but," he said, "out of the corner of my eye, I realized that your secretary wasn't at her desk, and that boy was at her desk, and that he seemed to have money in his hands." So he said, "I've been walking forward, and suddenly I'm walking backwards and looking in there, and the boy realizes I've caught him and watching him." And he said he looked up at me and said, "Mr. Sutphin, have you ever just touched money? It feels so good." Well, he said, I got that taken care of and waited till Miss Brown was back in. How sad that children can be so poor and be so trained to be thieves. Well, the other one involved Miss Brown. And again, I think I'm remembering my names right. Wonderful secretary, nice lady in every way. One day, the secretary, fairly early in the morning, in fact, I don't know if school was yet started, came in and said, "There is a mother out here that wants to see you." Well, send her in, send her in. So she brought her in, and the little Mexican mother, just as neatly dressed and clean as a whistle, sat down and was kind of wringing her hands and being upset. And I said, "Well, no, we'll help you if we can. What is the problem?" "Well," she said, "it's my son. I'm afraid he's going to get arrested." "Get arrested? You only have the one, don't you, the kindergartner?" "Yes." "Well," she said, "he's been breaking into mailboxes with another little boy, and you know that's a federal offense." Well, I said, "I think you're right about that." Well, she said, "Can you help me? I don't think he really believes me when I tell him that this is a serious matter." "Oh," I said, "I think I can help you. Let's go down to the kindergarten room. And why don't you point him out and his little buddy, since you seem to know who the other boy is?" So she did. We went down. And they were aware they were being pointed out. And I went back out in the hall and thanked her, and she left. I went back in the hall, back into the kindergarten room, and asked the teacher, kindergarten teacher, to excuse these two little boys. They're going with me to the office. And as they stepped into the hall, she signaled to me to find out what the heck's going on. So I told her very quickly, stepped back in the hall. This is a fairly long hall. This is a good-sized elementary classroom. Incidentally, in that school, Kelly Trapucco was a student. His dad was a quarterback for the Denver team at that time. And as I stepped back in the hall, they're 30, 40 yards ahead of me, getting pretty close down to the office end. And they're obviously discussing it, and I watched by their hand signals and their body language, and they're telling each other, we're not telling him nothing. So we get down to the office, and it takes a while with me telling them, "You don't have to tell me anything. Your mother," nodding to the Mexican boy, "has already told me what you boys have been doing, and you can't do that. That's absolutely against the law. And you're young enough that I don't know what kind of trouble you might be in, but you could put your parents into a lot of trouble. So you can't be doing that." And so I asked the boys if they'd stop doing it, and they kind of indicated they would. But I told the boy whose mother I hadn't seen, "I want to see your mom or your dad tomorrow." By golly, the next day, the most wizened, dried-up little guy, I don't think he weighed 130 pounds, and a little older than you would expect a kindergarten dad to be, came in madder than hops. In fact, I got the distinct impression he came in to whip me. And, you know, in that ex-paratrooper thing, if a guy threatens to whip me, I don't get too concerned, because I figure if there's going to be anybody who gets whipped, it's probably not going to be me. So finally, he kind of began to simmer down when he realized that all his dadgum noise wasn't upsetting me or scaring me any. And I said, he was so mad at the kindergarten teacher, like she was the one that had reported him. And I kept telling him, she didn't have anything to do with it, but you shouldn't feel that way about that teacher. She's a lovely teacher, a lovely person, a good teacher. I'm sure she's good to your son. Well, he just went on and on about teachers and school in general. And finally I said, why in the world are you so bitter against teachers? Whatever happened to make you feel that way? And that man laid his left hand out in front of him and on my desk, and it was scarred across the top of the hand over and over. I said, what happened? He said, my own aunt kept me in the 3rd grade 2 years, beating that left hand over and over with the sharp metal edge of a ruler, trying to break me of being left-handed. Now, to you young folks that watch this, and maybe most of you old folks, you can hardly imagine that, but I'm aware that there was a lot of prejudice way back about being left-handed. And I'm sure the aunt, was being meaner than poison, but thought she was doing a good thing, going to break him of being left-handed so he'd have a better life. Didn't work. He's bitter, bitter, bitter towards teachers and towards her and towards education. Never had any further trouble with either boy. Never had any problem with the little fellow, the parent, or anybody else. But it was a hard life for that father and for that son, because of the bitter experiences he had had in school. Oh, by the way, I think he also said that was a Catholic school, but of course that could have happened in anybody's school.